Anyway, in he comes, star of the show, Boris Johnson. He walks in, he put his hand on the Bible, and he says, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the... Which is just like, the only way that that is forgivable is if it's sarcastic. Like, if it's parodic. That's the only way that like, oh, you swear that you're going to... Like, otherwise, it's ridiculous. Like, this has lied to his wife. He's lied about, I'm going to lay down dead in a ditch rather than sign that. He said he's going to lie in front of the bulldozers. He didn't do that. He lied about the £350 million a week. He lied about whether he knew Pincher was a sex pest. He lies about how many kids he's got. And then he's up there with his hand on the book. And he's like, yeah, I promise to tell the truth this time. You know? Like, why does anyone believe him? Why is there any value to his word at all? Why is the Daily Express as their headline today? Why is the headline like, hand on heart, I swear I did not lie to the House? Like my favourite one, I can't remember who the guy was, but he was a Conservative guy for the Department of International Development, I think. DFID it was called. And before the election, Boris Johnson had committed to this guy. He was like, don't worry. I know everyone's like, all the tub thumpers, all of the frothing lunatics are saying, you know, no more international aid and all that stuff. But don't worry, DFID is safe. I commit to you. Anyway, then they got elected in 2019. And one of the first things he did was scrap DFID. This guy goes, in an interview, he's like, I mean, he looked me in my eye and promised me that DFID was safe. And yet still now, even now, people are like, well, if the liar says he's telling the truth, then that's good enough for me. This little exchange between the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, and George Osborne, former Tory Chancellor George Osborne, but who at that time was editor of the Evening Standard. Here's the exchange. So, Matt Hancock says, I need to call in a favour tomorrow. I currently have 22,000 spare slots at the drive-thrus, and he means testing, right? Demand just isn't there. And this is obviously good news about the spread of the virus, but it's hard for my target. And what he means is that 100,000 a day, right? So then he says, so I could really do with a testing splash. Like, can we make this happen? Like, so just back up a minute, right? Hancock is suggesting that people aren't going to get tested. It's just not happening, which he thinks is a good thing, right? Because it means that the virus has slowed down. But can I get the front page splash of the Evening Standard anyway? Because I've put my career on the line for this unrealistic 100,000 a day test. And then Osborne, right, being the editor of a publication, knowing his responsibilities to the public, to report without fear or favour, then asks Hancock what on earth he's thinking, pressuring the editor of a newspaper to print favourable coverage of a government minister. And then Hancock reflects and he apologises and he suggests that they refer themselves to the Independent Press Standards Organisation, and then they form an alliance and they spend the remainder of their respective careers campaigning for greater political transparency between Whitehall and Fleet Street, and then they lobby for press regulation. And then we fade to black and the credits roll where the Pixies' Where Is My Mind plays, and none of that happened. None of it happened. Of course it didn't. Instead, Osborne says, sure, just send me the words. You're almost there with your target. If I can help you, yeah, fine. It's unbelievable. Osborne just goes, yes, of course. All you need to do is give some exclusive words to the Standard and I will tell the team to splash it. You're almost there. Send me the words by 8 a.m. Like this whole time, I've been trying to get press for this podcast. I've been emailing the Huffington Post. I've been troll tweeting the Daily Mail. I've honestly been tweeting them saying like, hey, yeah, do you know my dad used to work for the BBC? and my whole family voted Remain. You know, could you run a couple of hit pieces on me? You know, so I can around and get verified. I've prank called The Sun. I've sent press releases out about, you know, high-profile guests. This person has been on, and they said this, and this whole time, all I had to do to get a front-page splash of the Evening fucking Standard was just ask George Osborne. Oh, do I feel silly? So yeah, Snowmageddon will become the latest story, diversionary distraction thing to get you to not think about your ballooning mortgage payments and 90% increases on your rent and your energy bills. Now it's just snow. Look, there's some fucking snow. This is the latest one after, like Harry and Meghan and the Chinese weather balloon and Shamima Begum. It's wild. Like, do you know what it's like? It's like a family meal, right? Imagine this. Let me set the scene for you guys. It's like a family meal. So there's you, your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister. Maybe there's a few, like, you know, a couple of kids running around or something. And it's a nice meal. Like, your mum's got out the nice china. All right. Supposed to be a nice meal. But a couple of you know there's some shit going down, right? A couple of you know that your dad has been back to the bookies, right? He took out an equity release on the family home, hundreds of thousands of pounds, and he blew it over 6 months on strippers and gambling and cocaine and having a good time. Don't f***ing judge him. He's had a hard life. For God's sake, let him have some fun. But the fun was expensive. And pretty soon the bailiffs are going to come calling for the house and the heirlooms and, indeed, the posh china. But your mum's like, you know, we don't talk about money at the table at this nice meal, the nice china. Your mum is desperate to keep the topic of conversation off the fact that everyone's inheritance is gone, the house is going, because if they don't sell quick, the interest on the equity release is just going to pile, and then they would be left with nothing. And it's all just so bad and grim. But every time the subject turns to money, your mum is like, oh, they say it's gonna snow tomorrow, you know? It's like that. That is British news right now. You know, there's a few of us that are like, Mum, what the f***? You know, we're talking about where we want to go on holiday this year. It's a fact, like, now listen, I like Brazil. I've never been to Brazil. But, you know, Tabitha said that it was stupendous. I mean, she used actually slightly more risque and ribald language. You know Tabitha, and your dad is like, yeah, no, Tabitha. And then you look over and you're like, no, Hugo, you said South Africa. And again, I think that could be fun for the little one. And then your mum interjects again, just desperate to divert away from anything to do with spending any sort of substantial amount of money. And she's like, oh, did you know who else went to South Africa? Harry and Meghan went to South Africa. I tell you what, oh, that Meghan. Oh, I just don't know what to think about that Meghan. I can't wait for the Sun to tell me. And you're like, Mum, can you stop interrupting? We're trying to arrange the family holiday, and you keep derailing and distracting us. Now, Dad, what's your budget for you and Mum? And then your mum's like desperate. Oh, look outside! A great big white balloon in a whole other country. Like, now, am I losing my mind, or is that us? Is that not the perfect metaphor for British media in 2023?